York City again for the CASRO Technology Conference, and we were honoured really to be able to present the survey findings. This is our annual survey that we do each year, obviously, into market research companies and what they're doing with their technology. This year we actually dug into what we thought were 4 areas of topical interest, in the extent to which firms are engaging with new MR, the extent to which people are reacting to data visualization and the sort of changes they need to make there. We had a look at
text analytics
and mobile research as well, specifically about the extent to which people were taking online surveys on mobile devices, not specifically surveys that were designed for mobile use.
So let me just talk about that for a moment. So we asked a number of questions. Mobile has been swirling around in the industry for a number of years. I think all of the data that we're collecting nowadays seems to be pointing in one direction, which is mobile is really important. It is growing quickly. So we had a bunch of questions about how much mobile do you think is going on now. So you invite people to do a web survey. What proportion of people end up doing that on mobile? And we get a pretty mixed picture, anywhere between 2% and 10%, and some estimates go as high as 25%. We think the answer is somewhere in the middle of all of that, but whatever the answer actually is now, and we need to do better research into it, I think, Tim, it's growing very quickly. And so it's growing, so the question then is, well, what is the industry doing about it? And unfortunately, the sort of horrifying result that came back from the survey was that about 60% of the companies that we asked basically said, we're not doing anything about it. We let it happen, or we have no particular policy. And only 15% of them were actually taking a very proactive stance, recognising that this is a challenge. So I think our conclusion from that was a rather depressing situation, and we need to step up our game a bit, that mobile is going to keep on growing, and we need to go really, really fast. And there was another interesting bit of data that we touched on coming from a different source, a company called Notice, which was talking about how many emails are opened on mobile devices, and that was showing that roughly 21% of all email is opened on a smartphone. And therefore it's likely that 21% of survey invites are open on a smartphone, and then we're serving up generally a bad survey experience. And the follow-up question from that was, well, what happens then? And mostly what happens is people are gone. You've lost them, you serve them up a bad mobile experience, and they're gone. So this is a kind of a wake-up call to the industry to really step it up, and of course the software providers as well. So that was my take on mobile. Work to be done.
Clearly so, and I mean the firms were telling us as well that, well, the estimates varied, but really between sort of 5% among small companies to 10% among large companies, where they say that people are actually attempting to take their surveys on mobile devices. So there's a problem and a growing problem.
Yeah, and I think the point you made is you've got to wonder about the people who actually end up taking these surveys on mobile devices, because it must, what sort of qualitative answers are we getting from them? So it's and maybe some more research to be done into that. Actually, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just give you a couple of flavours of what we've found with looking at visualisation of data as well. Really interesting topic. We've got Stephen Few as an authority on this, going to be speaking later about this today. But I mean, we asked, really, were people being asked to do very advanced data visualizations more, and the answer there was yes. Definitely. It seems to be growing, and in fact it was 80% of the sample that said yes, it seemed to be growing either strongly or to some extent. So there is a demand there. We went on and asked people what tools they were using and also who was doing it, and well, it was incredible.
A sorry picture again, I'm afraid.
The extent to which people are relying on Excel and PowerPoint to do this. I mean, it just topped out everything else. Yeah. Everything else. Yeah. And the other kinds of specialist tools that do a better job at this, arguably, came well down the list. So again, it's like what we find everywhere. There are some areas of good practice.
Good activity. Yeah.
There are people that are experimenting with these new technologies, but they are very much in the minority.
Yeah.
And part of this we then realised when we asked people who was doing this, again, a very strange pattern emerged. Well, it's researchers. It's researchers that are trying to do these advanced visualizations for themselves.
With the wrong
research
tools.
Assistants with the wrong tools. Really, the third on the list, who do they turn to? It tends to be the technical people, not actually the graphic designers or the visual.
Who are not noted necessarily for their visual design skills.
No.
So it's a curious situation.
No, and in the open-ended question we asked following up that, it came up time and time again that people were concerned about how difficult it is to do with the tools that they have and how they don't necessarily feel they have the right skills to do it.
So there's definitely an education thing to be done. So there are some good tools out there, but I think the other conclusion we came to is that the technology providers into the MR industry probably need to step up their game a little bit in this area as well.
Yeah.
So there's work to be done, which is good.
Yes. So there we are. So anyway, at this moment I'm looking forward to what Stephen Few's got to say about this. See if he can give us some hints as to how to do a better job of this.
Yeah.